Hi everyone. Today I've got a very good friend of mine on the podcast. His name is Rahul Bakaya. Hey Rahul, how are you?
Good, Abhishek. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Nice to see
First
you,
of
man.
all, likewise, man, likewise. All right, so I know you've achieved a lot. You've been in marketing. Now you're into property space in Sydney, and you're doing wonders. And good on you for that. But for the people who don't know you, who is Rahul Bakaya?
Well, uh, professionally, I am a marketer, and from my job, I look after growth at Property Dollar. So, Property Dollar basically it's an app that helps you to track the value of your property in real time. So it's the only app for end users in Australia, one of its kind. Um, and then personally, I'm a husband, I'm a dad, I'm a son. I'm very proud. I've created a small family in Australia. My background is Indian. I'm Indian. I'm a North Indian. We both come from the same town, and I've been in Australia for I would say more than a decade. So Australia is home.
Oh, cool. And I've seen you started working out a bit. I can see the muscles on you now.
Well, if you wear a shirt, does look like a muscle, but it's usually that visceral fat that comes after 35.
I've stopped getting on the scale, to be honest.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
It's very interesting you talk about Property Dollar. And I remember last time we spoke, you recommended that I download it. We'll get to that app later.
Yeah.
But just tell me about your transition from marketing and data to the real estate, which is like hot cake these days. Everyone's talking about property, right? Australia is um, very property driven market. They're
Yeah.
very obsessed with property, uh, and
Yeah.
and for good reason. So it's like I think it's really regulated, especially if
Yep.
you compare to the other countries. So how do you see the market performing, and like what are your
Mhm.
insights on the Australian property at the moment?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So a couple of questions over there. So my transitions, I believe I haven't done my transition from marketing. I think everything that you do is either sales or marketing to grow a business. So
True.
at Property Dollar, I would say 60% of my work is marketing, still marketing, because I'm there to make sure that we are growing the business at scale. We're growing Property Dollar at scale. So I'm still doing that, and I think I think I'll be doing that throughout my life. Doing marketing, I that's something I'm passionate about. I think moving towards a real estate, or dare I say, moving more towards Proptech. I come from a heavy technology background,
Yeah.
so I've worked for some tech firms looking after their marketing. And property market is something that is crying for technology or innovation, and that's something that will benefit a lot, because what is happening right now in property market, this is an asset class in Australia where there is a void of information and data. So the data and information is accumulated with some specific key stakeholders, and then what happens if the critical information around the market if is held with few stakeholders only, sometimes that takes the market in a direction where it's not good for the end consumers, right?
When you say stakeholders,
So
Rahul, sorry, I'm cutting you there.
stakeholders like so stakeholders, what I mean is that back in the days, it will be the main information around intelligence around a particular suburb
Yep.
or a particular property type of property or an asset class will remain with real estate agents, or will remain with some sort of buyer's agent or financiers, right? Uh, it- Taking an example, if I'll ask you 5 years ago that do you think that it's good to invest in, uh, I don't know, Homebush or Parramatta, you would say that yeah, okay, maybe not. Your only yardstick would be to see if the property prices has gone up or down. But now, if you ask a user or a property investor today, they have 3 to 4 attributes of measuring what a good suburb is to invest. So population growth, and then government spending, local amenities, etc. So what's happening? The information that was with few key stakeholders is now getting dispersed amongst the users, or
Right.
people like you and me, mom and dad, so they can make wiser decisions. They can make more empowered decisions. And I think that was a great change of moment for me, that I thought that there is so much information out there. That information has to be structured in a way that will help the end users to make wiser decisions. Hence, property dollar. So, um, when there is so much information, when there is so much data in the market, we go through data, or what we call it, analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
um, and that's not what you want, right? The other thing is that, for the other asset class, as you yourself would know, you're a great great guy when it comes to finance. Share market, your own money, your non-liquid investments, everything will have some sort of a tracking system where you can see every day how they are growing, how they're coming down, etc.
Yeah.
But what frustrated us is that one of the most expensive investment of your life, which is a property, doesn't have a tracking system where you can see how it's performing, how that asset class is performing. Hence, that got my curiosity, and I worked with Vishal, who's the CEO of this company, and then he gave me the idea. I'm like, yeah, I'm sold.
Okay. So where do you think in Australia are we in the growth cycle? Do you think it's the initial phases, or do you think it's being saturated? This Proptech, it's a very interesting term you coined. I haven't heard about that.
Yeah.
So look, to be honest, I'm more of a stocks guy. I've always been a stocks guy and more managed
Yeah.
funds and mutual funds, right? So
Mhm.
when I used to talk to my clients, and I would recommend them, all right, just invest in a certain stock or invest in a certain managed fund, and the first apprehension is, it's really risky, and the fact that it's
Mm.
so risky, it's not that risky because if you hold anything long term,
Mhm.
the point to point returns are in most cases they're going to be up if if you've chosen right businesses and
Mhm.
so on and so forth, right? The
Mhm.
scary thing about stock market is you can track the prices every second
Mhm.
as the market goes, up and down. And obviously there are
Mhm.
people who actually take it as a gambling opportunity. But if you're a long-term investor, you actually don't have to worry about it. But
Mhm.
but what I'm trying to get at is usually people get scared of the stock market is the fluctuation that's so visible.
Mhm.
The beauty of real estate is that I think in disguise is that there's no form of tracking. So I think that's what
Mhm.
you getting into, that's what you're bringing to the table. So do,
Yep.
do,
Yes.
do you
Yes.
think, yeah, so do you think it has some sort of, you know, like maybe it's not the information that everyone wants?
So it's kind of okay. I think I'm getting your question. When what you're trying to postulate is, if we give you enough information and then you see crust and troughs in the graph,
Correct.
you
Because that
will get
scares the hell out of
you
people in
yeah
stock
you'll get
market,
scared.
right? Yeah.
No, I get your question. I have a different view.
Mm,
Uh, I think people get scared in the absence of information. Like, you are not scared, right?
mm,
You are not scared in getting in there investing because you see stock market as your subject and area of expertise, because
yeah.
you have invested in it, you have tried and tested, if something is going down, what does that mean mathematically. You look things, keeping your emotions outside, right?
Yeah.
um, and and that, I think, once that kind of expertise, if you bestow that kind of expertise on your customers or
Yep.
on the other people who are not as financially literate as you are, I think the scare will go. Right? It's just that, even including me, I've never I've never invested in stocks, but and the reason is because I don't know much about it, right?
Fair enough.
If
Fair enough.
tomorrow I have that kind of information that you have, that kind of wisdom and knowledge that you have, I don't think I'll be scared. I'll be scared that much. I think I'll welcome. The numbers will make me excited, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the same corollary when it comes to property. I think the principles of the property market. Most of the investors were aware of the principles of property market, so they knew that to get to a proper return, you need to do these 3 to 4 steps.
Right. Yep.
Buy below the market
Yeah.
rate. Make
Yeah. Yeah.
sure you're not paying too much loan on that. Make sure you're 20% deposit and all that. Um, but what they didn't have is basically a system where they can have a peripheral view of all their investments at one place, all their property investment at one place.
I think that's going to
Because
be
imagine,
really tough, right? Like I feel for you guys because if you have to study a business, right? If I have to study Woolies,
Mhm,
so a Woolies here or a Woolies, I
mhm,
don't know, in Melbourne, it's the same Woolies, that's the same business. So you have to
mhm.
study their balance sheet and so on and so forth. But real
Yep,
estate, on
yep,
the other hand, everything, every piece of real estate is unique in itself. Do you know
that's
what I mean?
correct.
Yeah,
That's
so
correct.
that's really hard. Like, how do you guys manage that?
Mhm. Yeah. So look, whatever values. So let me explain first for the audience that who may not know what Property Dollar does. So basically, it's pure, simple, very user-friendly app where with few clicks you upload your property details, and then it will give you the current market value of your property, which may be equal to your purchase price and maybe higher than your purchase price. And if it's higher than your purchase price, then the difference is the equity that you have earned,
Yeah.
right? And then that value keeps getting updated maybe every month or every 3 months, every 4 months, depending on the activity around the suburb. um, but
Okay.
you are now able to track that. So giving you an example, and this is a crude example, not a real life example, but
Yep.
say for example, I own a property in Belmore where I'm living.
Yep.
It's a 2 bedroom apartment. I bought it for 620, and after 2 years, once I put it on Property Dollar, now there's a metro coming in Belmore.
Mm,
So what is happening right now is all the banks that are coming in, they're revaluating the properties. There's so many activities happening. So all of a sudden, the value of the property now is going to 680, 690, right? That is now reflected in Property Dollar.
right.
So I get that real time value, right?
Mm,
Um, and then something else happens, it goes even higher, then I can track that every time till I sell that asset class. Now, I don't know if there's a nuclear waste over here tomorrow, it may actually go down. That can also be tracked, right? So that awareness is very critical. But your question was more around, it can be very difficult. Look, it's an approximation.
fair enough. Yeah.
Data science is an approximation, right? It's not 100% accurate. I'll give you an example. So if I think, Property Dollar is showing the value of this apartment is 690,000.
Yep.
I know if I sell it tomorrow, it's going to be 750,
Mm,
right? So the real value of your asset is judged by someone who is paying
willing to
for it,
pay for it. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's
So
also reflected in the fact that, when you approach your mortgage broker and then they help
yeah.
you get the values from the different banks, and then
Mhm.
different banks come up with different valuation, that doesn't mean that,
Yeah,
one is
that's
wrong
your
than
value.
the
That
other.
that doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. At
It's their understanding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but at the end of the day, it's how much on a given day someone's,
Mhm.
willing to pay for it.
That's correct. That's correct. So what I tell people, like, I've had few comments where they were like, oh, this. I don't think that's my value. It's too low. I'm
Yeah.
like, at least now you know it's too low, right? At least now you know now, right? At least you know that you don't have to go below this. You have to go above this, right? So have this customer. I speak to customers all the time, right?
Yeah.
I'll just pick up the phone and I'll just call them. How are you going? And one of these customers is like, hey, listen, I have property over here. I know it's worth 1.5 million, but the property dollar showing maybe me it's like 1.3 million. And I'm like, well, now you don't have to sell it below 1.3 million.
Right. That's
you know
useful.
and now you can track it, but give it some time, and with time, if once it's updated, you will see the real value in the app. We're also having a system in place where I mean, our head of product is amazing. His name is Naseem. He's amazing at what he does. He always sees in the future, goes like, if you have met product managers, they're always like 2 quarters ahead. And what he's saying is that what we'll do, we'll put in a system in place where eventually you will be able to claim a higher valuation. So, for example, you did a formal valuation of your home,
Yeah.
right? And
With the
that
bank.
formal
Yeah.
valuation with a bank came
Mm.
higher than what it is in Property Dollar. You can actually upload that on Property Dollar, and then we'll update that, because that's pretty simple, right? So yeah, we are doing those kind of things as well.
Also, user-enabled data you can feed
Yeah,
into the system. Oh, okay, that's pretty handy.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's pretty handy. Okay. So again, coming back to the question, how do you think Australia is going with it? Like, are they in the initial phases of this technology, or do you think it's up there saturated, or there's a big scope that you guys are looking at?
Yeah, look, I think technology has just started. Yeah, I think we are on our embryonic stage. If you see the bell curve for
Yeah.
for the technology, we are right at the bottom right now. I mean, we have really good players in PropTech. We for your audience, we actually have a PropTech Association of Australia.
Oh,
So yes, so under that, there are a lot of PropTechs. We are also PropTech is also the member of that. So there are a few PropTech. Yes, it's growing right now, because people have realized that there's so many things that can be managed by technology and AI. So just giving you an example, right? So the kind of rental income you're getting
yeah.
through your real estate agents, and then the money that is going out. So simple for an investment, simple equation is money coming in, money going out. Right. That's not managed by anyone, any app, right? But now there are organizations who are giving tools, paid versions, where you can have some sort of open banking system, and then you can track how much money is coming in from your rental and how much is going out through your mortgage, and what's balance in the end. So that capsulates your cash flow for the month. So then you can decide that, well, is my property performing or not? Am I losing money or am I earning money? So there is so many things in the property market that can be tracked. So if you look at property market opportunity in general, property market Australia opportunity in general, um, so one side is purely information based,
Yeah.
where information is very sporadic, and then it needs to be regulated for the end consumers. That's number one, right? The second opportunity is where people who already have properties, the management of the properties, right? So there's information management, and then there's asset management. So these two opportunities require a lot of technology, heaps and heaps. Realestate.com.au and
Yeah.
domain did them, all thanks to them. Like they catapult our growth in the future. I think they are great. The UI UX of those two websites, they're great for listings. So they have solved the problem of listings. And if I compare to a market, say for example, such as India, like India got housing.com or other websites.
Mm.
But if you compare them with real estate or domain,
Yeah, it's not even
they are
close.
apple and oranges, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So real estate, you can just sit there for the whole day and just keep going through a listing, and you
Yeah.
won't get tired. That's the beauty of the design. But 5-10 minutes with websites from other different countries who haven't invested too much in the UI UX, you may get tired. You may go like, all right, there are too many ads, too many pop-ups, too many chats. I'll
Yeah.
just go and come back later. So I think I got to give the credit to the first Australian Proptechs, which were like real estate and domain. They've done a
Yeah.
great job. Yeah, but answer to your question is, we are still very at a very early
Pretty new.
stage. We haven't matured. Yeah, we haven't matured yet. No.
Right. So there many new things coming up. People have started using buyer's agents a lot. What's your take on it? Like I don't know how famous they were like 20 years ago. Because
Mm-hmm.
do you know what I mean? Like not many people
Yeah,
would
yeah.
go to a buyer's agent. They would
Mm-hmm.
just look around their backyard, you know,
Yep, yep.
just buy a property. And now
Mm-hmm.
they're buyer's agents. How relevant and how significant do you think the buyer's agent are in this market?
Mm-hmm. I think they're amazing. I think there is a requirement for buyers agent. Hence, there are a lot of buyers agents popping up.
Mhm.
Um, because you have a real estate agent who is selling the property, is speaking on behalf of the vendor,
Yeah, he wants the
right?
maximum,
So, yeah,
what he can get
so
for that
what?
property.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right. But you don't have anyone who speaks on the behalf of buyer,
Mm.
and you don't have anyone who wants to buy at the least price,
Yeah.
but you have someone who controls and wants to sell at the highest
Mm.
price, right?
Yeah.
So there was a gap, there is a gap, there was a gap, and hence for the buyer's agent. But looking at the whole market, because it's a new profession, you will get some gems, then you will get a lot of bad apples
Yeah.
until the industry regulates itself and the bad apples are thrown out, and then industry will be filled with known gems, right? That's how any job industry works, so what happens is that when a new job industry comes up, you have everyone going in with experience, without experience, claiming to be the magician. But market in the world of capitalism, market dictates everything. So people would know, like, who is selling me snake oil and who is actually selling me, giving me value, right? I think buyer's agent, the market of buyer's agent will be regulated, self-regulated, and the experts will stay and the amateurs will leave. It will become very tough. It will become very tough.
I've heard their fees are like really high fees going on with the buyer's agent.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's pretty high. The kind of research they do. I mean, when I'm saying the kind of research they do, the kind of effort they put, I'm speaking to those gems
Yeah.
that I've spoken to. I mean, so say for example, tomorrow if you go to a buyer's agent
Yeah.
and you give them um, attributes and conditions that, hey, listen, I want to buy somewhere in Perth or in Brisbane. This is my budget. And they'll go like, okay, let me go and find something for you, right? And they will find something, and this is what you wanted. This is the price. My fees is this. But what I have seen after speaking to few buyers agents and real estate agents, a really sharp buyer agent will go like, okay, what is your end goal? What do you want to do? Because what buyer's agent wants to do is, you may come up with a specific goal. They can actually help you look at a bigger value proposition. You may go come like, hey, listen, I want to invest in um, I want to invest in Perth, and this is my budget. And then that guy may go like, what are you looking for? Are you looking for cash flow? Are you looking
Capital
for
growth.
capital growth?
Yeah.
Oh, you're looking for capital growth. How much capital growth are you looking for? Are you looking for 80 to 100K? Are you looking for 100 to 200K? Are you looking for 200 to 300K? And what's the time span do you have? I'm looking for 90 to 150K, maybe in 4 5 years. Okay, Perth is all right. I'm looking for 300 400K. Well, oopsie do, Perth is not your market. You may
Mm.
have to look at Sydney, because that's the kind. If you want to look at that growth, Sydney is because Sydney, if you look at geography of Sydney, Sydney is bestowed with that kind of nature where you have mountains, you have hills, you have water, you have flat plains, which limits the release of too much land. So supply will
Right.
always be an issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whatever you get, and it will just exponentially grow. Hopefully, that's what the pundits say, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Perth, on the other hand, may not have that, or Melbourne, on the other hand, may not have that. Depending on what you basically want, then buyer's agent will then give you advice, and then once you both have mutual agreement, then they will go and find one for you. Now there are disadvantages as well that I've seen, and this is actually a buyer's agent has actually educated me on these.
Oh,
Right.
that's interesting.
Right. So here are the things that you need to look for, looking for a buyer's agent. So some of the buyer's agent, you need to be wary of that they don't have kickbacks.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like
Do you think there's
say for
transparency
example,
in that, or in that fashion?
no, no, they won't be
Oh.
transparent if there are kickbacks. Like, they'll go like, hey, listen, instead of going there, why don't you go there? This is an amazing project. You need to spend this. Why? Why are you pushing me towards it? This is not what I want. This is
Mm.
not aligning myself into this, right? This is not what I'm after. There are other things that sometimes buyer agents go like, you need to make the decision now.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like now, make decision now. Why? I have like 50 questions I need to ask you. Like, I'm not buying
Yeah.
a ceiling fan. I'm not buying a computer. I'm
Mm.
not buying a lolly. I'm buying a
Yeah,
property,
yeah.
right? I Show me the strata report. I need to see what were the defects, right? Show me the
Mm.
QC report. Or you're being too emotional. You're taking too much time. You're being emotional. No, you're not being emotional. You're just being cautious, right? It's okay to be cautious. It's a sign of a good investor to be cautious. So look out for those signs where
The red
where
flags.
buyers agents are pushing you
Mm.
to take a decision in their favor.
Well,
Right.
how do you make sure that they're not getting any kickbacks, or there's no, some hidden interest? So is there like, can you control that with some kind of agreement, or I don't know how you do it. Is there any disclosure statement? Like, well, what's happening here?
Um, that's that's a question I don't know. I don't have an answer for, to be honest, right? So, um, actually, that's a good question for my research. I'll actually do a research on that before I give you a smart answer. So the question is, how do you detect that if a buyer's agent is having
Yeah,
kickbacks,
just
right? So
any kind of
are they
safeguard.
obliged? Are they
Mm.
obliged to say it outset, be transparent? Like, I'm recommending you this project, but I do get commission on this.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, that
Usually,
kind of.
like mortgage broker would say that in his agreement that,
Mhm. Yeah,
I'm referring you
yeah.
to such and such bank, and
I get
this
this
is,
much commission.
yeah, this is what I get.
I get this much commission. Yeah, yeah. The other thing is that you got to make sure that they have a license to operate.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
think
you
there are
can't you
unlicensed
can't be.
ones roaming around?
There are, there are,
There are?
there are, there are, there, or the license have expired. Personally,
Mm.
I've checked it with a few folks. So there are a few folks I follow on social media. They're
Yeah.
giving advices, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Let's Google if they have a license. Their license has expired in 2022, right?
So
So
there's actually a domain
um,
where you can go to and search for it.
yeah, you can actually go and
Oh,
check for the licenses. If and do so do check. You can you can check builder's license. You can check real estate license.
yeah.
You can check a buyer's agent license to make sure they have that license to operate. And one very important thing that you need to be aware of when dealing with buyer's agent, or in fact any other agent in general, is when they start giving you financial advice.
Yeah.
So investment and financial advice should be given by a certified financial advisor only, right?
Mm.
So it shouldn't be given by a buyer's agent. So buyer agent should be telling you, oh, don't invest in, I don't know, crypto, or don't invest in stock. You got to invest in this. That shouldn't be the
Right.
advice. So if they're giving you that advice, you just need to ask them like, what is your qualification of being a professional financial advisor. If it's not, then stay away. Whilst it's not that of a pandemic within the buyer's agent, it's very minuscule number of people who are doing that. I think it's more of a problem with mortgage brokers. Knowledge
Mm.
world tends to sometimes give financial advice as well, like, oh,
Yeah.
why are you spending there? Don't spend there. Do this, do that. Because what they want is basically get a bigger loan. Bigger
Yeah.
loan means bigger commission, right?
Mm.
So they may go like, hey, listen, don't invest in I don't know, apartments. Go and invest in a bigger house,
Mm.
etc. Um, but again, very minuscule. Most of the folks I've met who are from a mortgage broking industry, who are from buyers industry, and who from real estate industry, they're very nice, very helpful, very helpful. Well, only like few bad apples.
Yeah, I think they're everywhere,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, they're everywhere. They're everywhere.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mm. Very interesting point. You talked about Perth, right? Like just out of the
yeah,
blue. What's happening with Perth, man? Like first it was Brisbane, like people from Sydney and all these
yeah,
big cities flocking to
yeah,
Brisbane first. And I think it was to do with what Olympics, and then
yeah,
the
yeah. I think that
prices
goes.
went
Yeah,
up, and now
yeah,
they saturated that market, I think, and now they're in
yeah.
Perth.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
how do you see that?
I think I think Perth market again. I steer quite away from giving predictions because most of the
Mm.
qualified economists, when they give predictions, they're very wrong.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
the good thing about being an economist is you can get away with wrong
Get away
predictions
with
every
it.
time.
True.
uh,
But look, it's
but
just your insight. It's just two dudes talking on
yeah,
YouTube,
it's
right?
my opinion only.
Mm.
Uh,
And sorry, before you
Perth
do that,
saw
just letting
yeah,
everyone know, this none of this is financial advice. We just again two random dudes talking on YouTube.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
just do your due
yeah.
diligence and
Please,
you run
please,
your
please
numbers.
check with your financial advisor.
Yes.
Right. So, look, from it's my personal opinion that Perth saw a good rise from the macroeconomics, not the microeconomics. So there are a lot of mines,
Mm,
minerals, the good exporter of energy. So now you've got really great companies in Perth. You've got Roy Hill, who is one of the biggest firms in Australia, generating lots and lots of employment and high wage employment. Uh, but that is dependent on macroeconomics. So
yeah.
how we are doing, what's the price of coal, what's the price of energy per unit, depending on that. And I think that just trickle down that growth into the property market, obviously, where people had more money and they were ready to spend. Now instead of going to an apartment, I have enough money to buy a house, you know,
Mm,
and then you saw a sudden influx of investors from interstates like Sydney
yeah.
and
Sydney
Melbourne
side is everywhere,
investing in
right?
Perth. Yeah. So Sydney siders, and this is just me speaking with a lot of real estate agents who have dealt with Sydney buyers in Perth.
Mm,
So most of them, IT buyers, people working in IT industry in Sydney or technology, etc. So technology had a great boom during COVID, as we were
mm,
discussing offline, right? Technology had a great boom. And because they had a great boom, a lot of people working in technology made a lot of money,
yeah.
right? So they made a lot of money and they made good money that may not get them a house in Sydney,
Yep.
but get them enough deposit to get a 5 bedroom house in Perth,
Mm.
right?
And then these
So
IT
all
people
that
just
money,
work out of their laptops, man. They can even work from Bali.
yeah, yeah, precisely. But they I think they were more of the investors.
Only the investors, yeah, yeah.
So a lot of investors. So I mean, if you speak to some of these IT folks, they're on contract basis. I mean,
Mm,
they can generate enough money in 3 months for a deposit for
mm,
Perth, right? 3-4 months. It's like 50-60,000 savings enough. Go and just invest in Perth, right? Why wouldn't
yeah.
you? So that boom came from investors as well. So it was more of an investor-led market.
Mm, mm,
But what we didn't see is more and more new companies opening in Perth.
yeah.
We didn't see maybe a lot of structure around the government spending, like
Mm,
what is government plan? What is the next 10 years government plan
yeah.
for Perth? But we didn't see that much, right? So it was more of macroeconomics and more of investor-led growth. That will take prices to a certain level and then it will plateau,
It's true.
right? Unless and until government decides that they want to get Atlassian, they want to get Google, they want to get 5, 6 councils office, they want to get big four corporate offices in Perth, generate hundreds of
Yeah.
thousands of jobs, then it's a different story. But that's not the case with Perth. So it saw its moment, and I think again, it's my personal opinion. It's going
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
plateau a little bit, and then look, it's a real estate cycle, right? Real estate is an asset class which is long term, so you got to wait 7, 8 years to see the growth again.
Easy, yeah.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. So according to you, it's just like one or two factors that's playing out and just,
Yeah,
making the property just go haywire.
yeah,
And obviously Sydney side is they just want
yeah,
investors.
yeah.
It's
One other thing I would also add is at that time when there's a sudden demand, the supply can't keep up.
mm,
Right? When there's a sudden demand, when there's like hundreds and thousands of people want to buy something in Perth, you can't build that kind of houses in that particular time, right? So there's
yeah.
limited supply only, right?
That's everywhere in
And
Australia at the
people
moment, right?
in Australia
Yeah.
and Perth being, there was already lack of supply in Perth, right?
Mm,
And plus there are double brick homes. So just for your audience, like Sydney, we make brick veneer construction. So there's brick on one side, there's a timber frame on one side, and then on the inside you have fiber cement, or we called internal lining,
right.
fibro, right? Perth, brick, frame,
Brick.
brick,
Mm,
right? So structurally very sound, made to withstand for ages, and they make it because of the temperature, double brick.
yeah.
So it's permeable enough that if it gets really hot,
Mm.
um, the temperature is balanced inside, and then they use other stuff on inside between the walls as well.
So these are the
So that's
apartments you're talking about, are they?
no, that's houses,
Houses. All right.
houses are double brick. Very famous in Perth. Perth is famous for double brick houses. We don't get double brick houses in Sydney, Melbourne.
What about us? Like, where is Sydney and London going? I mean, it's been a flat curve since last few years. Do you reckon? Again, your own personal take. You see,
like look, Sydney will grow, obviously. Like
yeah.
Sydney, there is like just enormous supply issue. I think uh, I I'm very sad. I feel sad to say that our kids won't be able to afford a house.
Mm.
Right? We are already at a median house price of 1.6 million.
Yeah.
I think by 2026, if I'm not sure, it will be 2 million and above. Right?
Hey, do you think that will help the
And
apartment market? Because
I think
the cost of getting into a
again,
house in
I
Sydney
think
is extortionate, right? So people will be like, you know what, I'm just starting out, and the
I
first home buyer's grant doesn't help that much because for that
I
you have
think
to buy a
I'm
property
going to
far
be,
away.
yeah, I'm going to be a bit pessimistic here, but I think our kids won't be able to afford apartments as well.
Okay.
So apartments 2 years median price was 650. It's 850 now.
And you're talking about what
That's
2 years,
Sydney, Sydney.
and that's over
Two
how many
years ago,
years? Oh, that's 2 years ago.
I think a year and a half, 2 years ago. Yeah, and now it's 850 apartment median price. Right, it's reaching million.
So it's catching up.
If apartment reaches million,
Mm,
and there are not enough apartments as well, like we need to understand that, right? So apartments, so for the concept of apartments is that you want to make apartments close to the amenities.
yeah.
Otherwise, why live in an apartment,
Fair
right?
enough. Yeah.
You can then go, if you don't want amenities, you can go far away, 50 k's away from
Mm,
Sydney, you can still be able to get $1 million house, right? But apartments you want closer to the amenities, like near the station, near Woolies, Coles.
yeah.
So it's convenient for their
Major
offices, right?
CBDs. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So the plan from Chris Mintz, the New South Wales Premier, is that they want to build more and more apartments
Mm,
in particular suburbs where they have in the vicinity of the apartment you have all these facilities and amenities, right? Which makes sense, right?
Mm.
Because you can't build houses there, and it's cheaper for government. I wouldn't say cheaper. I think it's more optimized for government
Yeah.
to make more apartments
Mm.
go
Yeah.
up, so that they don't have to then spend more money in transport, in public amenities, in creating more offices. That's already been done, right? Very
Mm.
smart move. The only issue is that um, the amount of houses that we need, say, for example, we need like, don't quote me on it. I think every year we need around like 80 to 100,000 houses, dwellings to live. We are far behind that. And we won't be able to achieve that any day, right? The reason being is that the cost of construction is going up, right? So through a developer's perspective, um, you know, to make an apartment close to those areas which have been nominated, say, for example, Lidcombe, Parramatta, whatever the station line is following,
Yeah.
right? Those kind of, even Belmore, all these kind of areas.
Mm.
The cost may be around 600, 650 to make a decent profit. It would be around 800,
Mm.
900,000 easy. Like,
And also, given the fact
the
that the land is already that expensive, and then you add on
yeah,
the construction cost, which is through the roof these days anyway, right?
exactly.
So,
And then you have rules and regulations from council which are very strict. They call it as a red tape. Too many rules that are not required. I have different opinions on that. I think you should have rules and regulation to make sure that you're giving away the quality product.
yeah.
But the thing is that if you think from a developer's perspective, the developer will go like, look, I'm not going to make any money. It will take a lot of time, my effort. I'll go into burn. Why would I go and develop now? So you will have shortages of units as well. That's if you ask this to any stakeholders in the real estate property industry, they will say the same thing. You will have shortage of units
What do you have to say to
in
the
general.
pundits on YouTube that say that, you know what, don't invest in an apartment, they've done nothing. They would continue doing nothing and buy a house somewhere in the regional area, which will give
Yeah.
you more capital growth. Are they looking at a very short period of time? Do you think that's the reason why they're giving this kind of like advice or
Well, let me answer that a bit philosophically. You give a generic advice when you don't have enough understanding to go deep into the market.
yeah, especially that's
Right.
why I asked you because
That's
since you
that's
have the access to
that's
the data, right?
yeah. That's when
Uh,
that's when you give
yeah.
generic advice, right? You,
Mm,
you go like, don't buy apartments that don't go in value. Not true.
yeah.
Factually not true, right? If you would have bought an apartment in Castle Hill 5 years ago that was $650,000
Mm,
for a 3 bedroom, that would be going upwards of 1.2 million right now, right? If you would have bought, then a lot of your audience would know this, like apartments near Solent Circuit, where I work. It's actually made all around a lake. It's a beautiful place to live, right? The apartment when it was open would be around off the plan would be around 600, 650 2 bedroom. It's upwards of 1.1, 1.2 million now.
and that's
Yeah.
over how many
We are
years?
talking 4 to 5 years, right? So that's doubled in the value.
Wow, and that too
That's
from off
doubled
the
in
plan.
value. Yeah. Everything was off the plan.
Yeah.
Everything in Australia was off the plan one day, right? If you
Mm,
think about it, right? Living beside small customized
yeah.
homes,
Yeah.
all apartments were off the plan,
Yeah.
right? And then you go like, okay, that's gone like 100% up in value. So what are you saying? Like, should we do it? Should we not? Oh no, it depends on location. Exactly right. It depends. It depends. Every asset class in property depends on location. It
Yeah.
depends on the future of the government spending over there, and it depends on demographics. It depends on what kind of people will be living there. If folks, if people living from Indian, Chinese, Asian communities who are very much into schooling their kids
Yeah.
to the highest standards, that lifts up the school curriculum, that lifts up the school ranking, and then
Mm,
rent goes up and the property prices goes up. It all depends on those kind of things, right? And today, if you want to go and buy an apartment in Castle, Go and check for yourself. And here's other thing what people can do if they're confused about buying an apartment versus because this happens. I've spoken to a lot of customers and we're like, yeah, we do want to buy a house, but we can't afford it right now.
Can't buy a house, yeah.
And a lot of audience will be very familiar to this situation. They want to buy a house, they can't afford the house, but they don't want to go 50K away from CBD. They want to buy in LGA where there's good school, like Castle Hill, Bockham Hill, Norwest, all those, Rouse Hill, Kellyville.
Yep.
But the average house price over there is 1.3, 1.4 million.
Yeah.
Right. And then when I say, look, okay, have you considered apartment? Oh, apartment doesn't go in price. And this is a real conversation with one of my friends. Apartment doesn't go in price. Like, who told you that? Yeah, some folks were telling me. I'm like, okay, have you seen any apartments? Yeah. Can I have a look? He showed me the address. That apartment was for close to like 980, 990, go for $1 million, right? And I'm like, okay, let's copy paste that address on Google. Go to property.com.au and see the history. We saw the history that the first time that house was built, so the apartment was built and sold, it was like for 632 in 2017, 2018, 632. Now it's close to $1 million. Like, how has that gone down in value?
Yeah.
So pundits coming and just giving a sweeping statement on a few asset class is they're doing disservice to their audience, right?
Rahul, do you think most of this stems out from the fact that since they have to earn commission as well, right? So, look, what I'm trying to say is, what I'm trying to say is, if you hold a piece of real estate long enough, say 20 years, and it sees like 20, 30 years, it sees multiple, cycles. So point-to-point returns would be comparable.
Yep.
But that's for the patient, like, for the people who are patient, right? No one wants to be that way because they want to be doing something because that gives them a false sense of security that they're working towards something. And then these people could take advantage of this and in the process earn the commission. You know what I mean? Maybe they had like 10 transactions in 30 years that netted them a certain amount of money, which they would have earned anyway had they hold on to, if they were holding on to these 2 properties, 3 properties to begin with for 30 years. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I do get your viewpoint. I hope that's not the case. That's a very pessimistic way of looking at it. I hope, and I know there will be few people because I have met few people who do that. Yeah. Right. So I'll give you an example.
Because we as humans, we like action, right? Yeah. If I tell you, Rahul, just for instance, just hypothetically, buy Apple stock and don't look at it for the next 20 years. Let your kid open it when he's out of the uni, and maybe, but then there'll be another guy coming, say, you know what, Apple's going to do good for 1 year, then you sell it, then you buy Amazon, and then you sell that after 2 years, buy, I don't know, Microsoft, and just rinse and repeat, and after 30 years. And there's all the possibility that you have made the same amount of money. But in the process, you've made different brokers rich.
Yeah. So, look, I'll give you a real life example, and this did happen to me. And condition, not that I'm saying everyone is like this, but this did happen to me. And I have, when it comes to investment, my portfolio is a bit varied. So I do invest in different asset class. So I will invest in apartment, I'll invest in house, right? I'll invest in land. And I wanted to invest in this apartment because I knew this is gonna go, right? And so my mortgage broker said that, hey, why are you investing in an apartment? You should go and have a look at the house. I'm like, no, that's where I want to invest. And then the mortgage broker started arguing with me, like, hey, this is not the right decision. People have made money in apartments, in house, etc. I'm like, I'll make money in that apartment. And then mortgage broker was hell bent on convincing me. I'm like, why are you convincing me, right? And then I realized that if I obviously go for a house in Sydney, that's going to be a bigger commission for that person. So much bigger commission, and much bigger commission then motivates that mortgage broker to work harder for my loan, as compared to maybe 600, 700,000 loan, which won't give that much commission. And then you have to do the same amount of work basically.
Yeah.
Right?
You think it's also to do with the LVR? Because, there's a lower, like, say if I want to get into an apartment in a high density area, I have to fork out at least 20%. But if I want to get into a house, I can, just save 10%, 5%, and the loan amount is higher.
Exactly right. So what they want is they want to get you a loan, right? The aim is to get you the loan, right? At a higher commission. The amount of effort is the same or increased. If it's increasing if as a mortgage broker, if my effort to get you a loan is increasing in apartment, I'll go like buy a house, right? That's an unfortunate instance. And nonetheless, that mortgage broker is not working with me anymore. And if that happens to any of your audience, please make sure that you do remind your mortgage broker that they are not financially, they're not legally allowed to do that. They shouldn't be giving you investment advice. But anyways, like I met great mortgage brokers after that, and they were like amazing. They understand everything. They were like, look, this is your decision. We're not going to do any hockey pocky with your decision, but we will help you to get that mortgage. So that's great. But the other thing also is that a lot of immigrants who come to Australia, if they're coming from small towns like you and me, we haven't been in a habit of living in an apartment.
Yep.
Right. And our idea of well settled life is having that house with a backyard.
Yeah.
So that's also kind of that, not, I won't say ego thing, but it's more around I've achieved something in life.
Yeah, it's more
But one thing, yeah, and one thing Sydney Sider need to understand is that Sydney is a metropolitan city, so apartment living is going to be normalized.
It's normal,
right? Yeah. So you won't be in Mumbai saying that I want a house.
No way.
You'll be lucky to have an apartment.
Mumbai is like Sydney, man.
Yeah. You're lucky to have an apartment. So, and then you kind of have the same kind of yardstick of a metropolitan. In Sydney, you have to treat Sydney now as a metropolitan if we want to grow. We want to, as a country, we want to get out of this housing mess, and we want to concentrate on how we can work with technology, work with AI to make the country better, make it 10 times more productive. We are having productivity issues right now with our population. How can we fix that? How can we fix any future COVIDs or diseases? How can we fix the war problem? These are the things we want to think about and really want to get out of this housing mess as soon as possible.
All right. One last thing I want to ask you, since again you have the data, so I'm trying to squeeze all the information out of you very trickily.
I have the data, but I have a very limited visibility of data.
Oh yeah, you would say that. Never mind.
Yeah.
How do you see the migration trends? And obviously, it's causing a lot of crunch in the in the supply and the demand side of things for real estate. So that's one side of it where you're migrating, you're getting the skilled workers.
Yep.
How does it look different when they are international students?
That's a great question. So yeah, look, Australia as a country is highly dependent on revenue from very few industries, which will include tourism, which will include education, which will include mining and energy, and property, right?
Yeah.
So a couple of industries where we heavily rely on revenue, on our GDP. And if you think about, if you look at some reports, the dependency on education, higher education, is high. It's critical. So you can't stop students coming in. international students, they are the revenue for Australian universities. Um, and I'm one of the product. I was
Yeah.
here as an international student, right? So and I know how much was the difference between the fees I was paying and the fees that an Australian citizen would pay,
Mm.
right? It's just apple and orange, chalk and cheese. So you gotta make sure that if you're highly dependent on an industry, don't harm that industry, but have measures to diversify so that something happens to that industry, you don't go broke,
Mm.
right? I don't think it's very wise to then blame Australian housing crisis or Sydney housing crisis on international students. I mean, a
But
kid
aren't
coming
aren't
from
they?
India or China, they're like eight people crammed in two-bedroom houses,
Yeah,
two-bedroom
because most of them are
apartments. How are they
renters,
going to do
right?
it? Yeah.
They wouldn't straight away buy a house or an apartment.
Yeah, it's basically what they're blamed for is increasing the rental market, but that's not the case, right? Because the footprint is maybe four people, five people in two-bedroom apartment. The person who is actually increasing the rental is the single people staying in two-bedroom apartment. So that's where the problem is, right? So you have less family members occupying bigger space. We have a footprint problem with that. And I think we blame we blame students who want to come here. So international students are your source of marketing. You want to give them great experience. So when they go back home, they go like, Australia was amazing. Don't go to US. Come
Mm.
here. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful place. And we do want them graduates to stay in Australia. We don't want to send them back. We have skill shortage.
Yeah. But
We
yet
need more
making sure
IT
they've made
people.
the PR really difficult at the moment.
Well, I hope the Minister for Immigration and Cybersecurity is doing a great job. She was saying that they're working on overhauling the whole process, and I'm confident they will do something on that. But there's a lot of backlog of
Yeah.
a lot of application, and they need to fix that up. One of the ex-employees, very very high up in Australian immigration, was saying that the system is designed to decline your application.
Wow.
Yeah, but
So
what
they
you don't
so they're
understand
looking
is
for things where they can reject you.
yes, that's correct. That's correct. And what you don't think from a macroeconomics point of view is if you're rejecting too many international students, not giving them chance to work here, you're losing on talent. So Canada will come and pick those resources up.
Mm.
US
That
will come and pick
already
those
happening,
resources
right?
up. Yeah, it's a global economy. You can't be just blindsided by these kind of things. You need more IT people. You need more data people. You need more cybersecurity people. We have our banks, our insurance companies are being hacked by cybers, like hackers, right? So we need cybersecurity experts like right now. We need AI experts right now, and we are lagging behind as a country. So we need all the resources that we can get. And don't forget, like, these folks, they're doing their engineering, they're doing their accounting, they're doing their professional degrees coming here and then
Paying
getting a job.
taxes.
Is
Yeah.
tax revenue.
Yeah.
It's tax revenue for
They're
you. So
consuming, they're paying
uh,
all kinds of taxes.
yeah, yeah.
The
I
GST.
understand that. Then the other thing is that I understand that once they graduate, they're not students anymore. Then we got to look at their housing because then they don't want to live with four people in two-bedroom apartment. Then they want to get married. They want to have their children. They want to create that family, right? So we got to think. So it's a policy discussion where they need to have a long-term vision on holistic development and not concentrating just on how do we get out of this mess. I mean, we need to get out of this mess, but we got to think long term as well. That's why, if you think about it, like Australia is not actually canceling all the immigration; like they're
Mm.
decreasing it a little bit to get to a good level. But if you just cancel immigration, like you're done. Like we don't have
Yeah.
that many people, right? Yeah.
All right. What are your thoughts on rentvesting? Just a random question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. I like it.
It's
I
great.
love it. If yeah, yeah, I love it. Actually, I was planning to rent West.
Okay, how
And
long sustainable? Like, is it great for a 20-year-old, 30-year-old, 40-year-old? But how long would you stretch the rent vesting part of your life? Is it sustainable forever? Do you think so?
in my personal opinion, you shouldn't rent west after 35
Okay.
if you want to have a family.
Mm.
Um, and it's again my personal opinion,
Yeah.
based on my personal aspirations, right? I don't want to be renting in a house or an apartment where my kid can't go freely and paint the walls and break the furniture. I don't want to tell my kid like, "Hey, listen, don't do that. Don't break the wall." I'm limiting my kids' feelings and being explorer, right? Now, if you come to my apartment right now, all the things are broken, paint is coming off the wall, etc. I can't do that in a rental house. But
Mm.
now my priority is not making my apartment look schmick. My priority is that my kid explores,
Yeah.
right? That's just one example of it.
Mm.
Then, usually, when you are near 35 or 36, that age, across 32, you are in that uh, time of your career where you are growing
Yeah, more
at a very
balanced.
high rate, right?
Mm.
And then the kind of work pressure you have is just uh, out of this world, right? You're handling multiple things in your 30s,
Mm.
right? You're handling mortgage, you're handling bills, you're handling multiple projects in your work. The last thing you want to think about is, what if my rent goes up? What if my landlord decides that he wants to sell this house and then I have to move away, right? So having your own, living in your own home is an emotional satisfaction, and emotional satisfaction in that kind of age after 35 is
Yeah.
very important. Otherwise,
That
you will
feeling of
burn out.
permanence. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yes, 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 yes. But then you have folks who will go like, yeah, I don't care, man, I'll just rent list. I've done this before. I have practiced it, and I'll just rent west, and then when my assets grow in value, I'll just sell them off and buy a house for myself. That's also a good strategy. Nothing wrong with that. If it was me, I will not rent west after 35.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah,
Well, that's a good
yeah,
take on it. You know what? We'll talk about this next time. We'll get you again here. But
yeah.
just quickly, where can people find you, or the property dollar, and or the property dollar,
Mhm,
or if they want to reach out to you, uh,
mhm.
like, where are you available?
See, the quickest way is to reach out to me is I'm on LinkedIn. And you can type in Rahul Bakaya. There's only one Rahul Bakaya in the whole world. So I don't share my name with anyone else. So you type in RAHULBAKAYA on LinkedIn and you'll
I'll
see
put
me.
the
You can
link
connect
in the
with me.
description anyway. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you can connect with me, and then I'm very quick in replying to the messages if the messages are not sales nature. Um,
What kind of
and
queries
then
would you be interested in, you know, solving? Like, it's not that you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's more professional
Yeah,
for you.
so yeah, like anything, like if you have questions related to marketing, related to growing a company, a
Okay.
brand, and then if you have questions around developing a team, or uh, questions around property as well, then I'm more than happy to help you with properties or property sales, or data around the property. I can help you with that as well. Where you can find property dollar, just Google property dollar, download property dollar, or just go to your app store and just say property dollar. It'll come up, download it for free. It will be free forever.
Oh, is that a free app? There's no subscription charge.
There's no money. There's no money. There's no money.
Wow. I don't think there's any reason to not download it then, right?
Yeah, it's free. It's just there sitting, helping you track. Uh, Albeit there are different companies who are doing fraction of what property dollar does, and it charges you around $120-$130 a month.
Wow. All
Yeah.
right, we'll get back to that, Raul. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Abhishek. Thank you.
All
It was
right.
a pleasure.
Cheers, buddy. See ya.
Bye.